students are not having it, they can get it from Dr. Sauna. Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
doctor.
For
Okay,
Dawadmi
I
students,
appreciate it. Thank you.
yeah, Dawadmi students, it is already uploaded on the LMS site. Okay, now I start. Huh?
Excuse me, your voice is a little. Is there
Hello.
any way to increase it up?
Hello. What? Hello.
The
About this inflammation types, morphology, effects, and outcome. These are the outlines which were also in today's PBL also somewhere you ought to know about these outlines. Now classification of inflammation. Classification of inflammation. Inflammation can be acute or it can be chronic. Now chronic has various types and acute has various types. Let us first see the easiest one. This chronic inflammation, it can be specific or it can be non-specific. Under the specific, we see there is the granuloma formation. Whenever there is granuloma formation, like such as in the tuberculosis, there is granuloma formation. Then the acute, then there is the acute inflammation. Acute inflammation can be suppurative or non-suppurative. Suppurative means where there is pus formation. Non-suppurative means where there is no pus formation. So under the suppurative, where there is pus formation, it can be localized. Localized yani a particular area is involved. Okay, a small part is involved. It can be abscess or it can be furuncle or it can be carbuncle. Whereas diffuse means a vast area is involved. Yani zyada area is involved, like cellulitis of whole limb, for example, leg or arm or skin. Now, non-suppurative can be where no pus is formed. It can be fibrinous, where you can see fibrin, where you can see fibrin, fibrous, fibrous tissue, or it can be serous, where there is no fibrous tissue. So this is classification. Remember this. It can be asked in the exam. Remember this classification. Then the morphological hallmarks of the acute inflammations. What are the hallmarks? Yani, what are the main points in acute inflammation? First of all, in uh, acute inflammation, there is dilation of the blood vessels. The blood vessels, what happens? They become bigger. They become dilated. The vessels become dilated, and then there is the slowing of the blood. The blood flow becomes zyada, but it becomes slowly. Then accumulation of leukocytes and fluids in the extravascular tissue. Then what happens? There is the leakage of the leukocytes and the fluid from the blood vessels and it goes into the surrounding tissue. For example, this is the blood vessel. It will leak. There will be vascular. This is normal lung. This is normal lung. This is lung. Yeah, these are the areolae. This is the vessel of the lung. Now, what will happen in case of inflammation, in case of lung? This is the blood vessel. It will become larger. It will become bigger, and leukocytes and WBC will leak from this blood vessel into surround. Now, the special types of acute inflammation will be serous, where there is no fibrin; fibrinous, where there is fibrinous tissue, where you can see fibrin. Then there is pus formation or suppurative or purulent, in which there is pus formation. Pus means necrotic and dead cells, such as example is abscess, or there can be ulcers. Now this is serous inflammation. Serous inflammation is marked by out pouring of thin fluid that may be derived from the plasma or from the secretions of the mesothelial cells lining the peritoneal, pleural, and pericardium. So this is like this. You might have been seen this like in case of burns or like anything. This like this. This is type of serous inflammation. The fluid like this is purely fluid. This is how it is called by leakage of thin fluid, and this fluid is derived from the plasma. Accumulation of fluid in the peritoneal, pleural, and pericardial cavity. Similarly, fluid can also accumulate in the peritoneal cavity, the pleural cavity, and the pericardial cavity. We call that term, medically, we use a term for that. If you, for example, in peritoneal cavity, we call that as peritoneal effusion. Pleural, we call that as pleural effusion. Similarly, pericardial effusion. Now this is the picture, histological picture of serous inflammation. Low power view of a cross section of a skin blister showing epidermis. Now this is the epidermis separated from the this is the epidermis. This is the keratin layer. This is the keratin layer. This is the epidermis, and this is the dermis. What happens in serous inflammation? There is separation of the epidermis from the dermis, and in between the epidermis and the dermis there is collection of fluid, serous fluid. This serous fluid is derived from the plasma. Then there is the fibrinous inflammation. Fibrinous inflammation is associated with increased vascular permeability resulting in passage of large molecules. So what is the difference between serous and fibrinous? In case of fibrinous inflammation, you will find fibrinogen. Fibrinogen is present in the plasma. It leaks and reaches the extracellular space. So in fibrinous inflammation, large protein molecules are also seen, such as the fibrinogen. They are also deposited in the extracellular space. Now, fibrinous inflammation, it occurs in case of the cancer as a result resulting from where you see, you can see it in the cancer as a result resulting from leaks of molecules from cancer cells. Similarly, you can also see it lining the body cavity and many ways. But remember, what is fibrinous inflammation? There is zyada fibrinogen present. In serous, there is no fibrinogen. Similarly, fibrinous aggregate removed by, how are they removed? After there is fibrinolysis, yani when there is breakdown of this fibrinogen and fibrin by the macrophage, slowly with healing, this is removed. If the fibrin is not removed over time, it may stimulate the ingrowth of fibroblast and vessels and lead to scarring. Similarly, if it is not removed by the macrophage, it can undergo organization within the pericardial sac leads to opaque fibrous thickening of pericardial epidermis. So it can be, what will happen to this fibrinous inflammation is that this fibrin will be slowly broken down and eaten by macrophage, or it can be organized, We call that process as organization, where there can be thickening of the organ. Then if we see under the microscopically, if we see fibrin appears as eosinophilic. Eosinophilic means pinkish meshwork of strands, or sometimes as a coagulum. So if we see under the microscope, this is the fibrinous inflammation, and we see a lot of fibrin here. This is eosinophilic, pinkish in color. Eosinophilic means pinkish in color. Then there is the suppurative or purulent inflammation. Suppurative or purulent inflammation, it is characterized by production of a large amount of purulent exudate, such as neutrophils. Purulent means whenever there is pus formation. Now, pus consists of what? There can be neutrophils. Purulent inflammation consists of neutrophils. It consists of dead cells, yani necrosis and fluid. Necrosis means dead cells. Certain bacteria, such as Staphylococci, will also be present. Any infection bacteria produces this localized suppurative and therefore referred to as pyogenic. We call many bacteria as pyogenic and many as non-pyogenic. Pyogenic are those that form pus and non-pyogenic are those that don't form pus. Now, Staphylococcus is a non-pyogenic organism. It can form pus. And in that pus, what you will see? One is that you can see neutrophil, you can see dead cells. Dead cells are necrosis. Similarly, you can see edema fluid. Similarly, a common example of this is acute appendicitis. Now, this is the example of this is the picture showing purulent inflammation. Purulent inflammation here, you can see this is multiple bacterial abscess. This is seen in case of lung. This is a bronchopneumonia case, and here you can see multiple bacterial abscesses. Multiple. This is abscess. This is abscess. This. All these white things. These are abscesses. If we see under the microscope, we see picture like this. Now, similarly, a thick yellow coat, it coats the peritoneal surface that resulted from rupture of the coat. Similarly, this is a picture of the peritoneal surface. Peritoneal surface, here you can see abscess here. Similarly, this is pericardium, this is pericardial cavity, this is heart, this is pericardial cavity. And here you can also see the purulent exudate. This is purulent means full of pus. You can also see the purulent exudate. This is color is yellowish. Now, abscess is a localized collection. What is abscess? Abscess is actually a localized. This can be a defined abscess or this can be short. What is abscess? Now, abscess is a localized collection of purulent inflammatory tissue where there is pus caused by suppuration buried in a tissue, an organ, or a confined. So remember this definition that abscesses you can also write from your knowledge that it consists of necrotic tissue. It consists of the neutrophils and WBC cells and dead cells surrounded by neutrophils. And outside this abscess, this region, what happens? There is vascular dilation and parenchymal and fibroblastic proliferation occurs. So inside there is abscess and outside there is chronic inflammation. Yani outside if there is center, this is the abscess. Outside what you will see, there will be repair going on. There will be repair going on. Yani the fibroblasts will be seen. They will be trying to repair this. Okay. So fibroblastic proliferation and chronic inflammation. Center there will be acute inflammation. Surrounding there will be chronic inflammation and repair. Now, what is ulcer? Ulcer is a local defect or excavation of the surface of an organ tissue that is produced by shedding of inflamed necrotic tissue. Can occur only when tissue necrosis and resultant inflammation exists or near the surface. Now, this can also occur. This can also be as a short note as a question form. You should know what is ulcer. Ulcer is seen on any surface, on skin. It can be seen in the stomach surface. On any surface, you can see ulcer, and it is actually a break in the surface. It is a break in the surface. It is a local defect or excavation. Excavation means break in the lining, break in the surface of the organ tissue. Okay. The surface is not good, it is broken. Now, here, for example, ulcer is the most common and counted, for example, in the mucosa of the mouth. Now, this is mouth ulcer. This is gastric ulcer. This is stomach. Here it is good, but here now this epithelial lining of ulcer is not good. It is broken. It is broken, so we call it as gastric ulcer. Similarly, ulcer can also be on the foot. For example, in case of diabetic ulcer, everywhere skin is good, but here there is some defect in the lining of the skin. There is problem here and breakage of the skin. So we call again it as ulcer. You can remember ulcer is breakage in the skin or any lining. It can be lining of stomach. It can be lining of the skin. It can be lining inside the mouth. It can be lining in the intestine. It can be lining on any organ. Okay. So similarly, so similarly this is the ulcer, this is that of the esophageal. This is an esophageal ulcer. Okay, this is an esophageal ulcer. This is the squamous epithelial, and this is squamous epithelium tissue, and this is the ulcer here. Now, outcomes of the acute inflammation. What will happen after the this inflammation, acute inflammation? See, now complete resolution. Resolution means everything becomes okay. The person heals, or there can be healing by connective tissue replacement or fibrosis. Yani, it heals, but there will remain a scar. And what is scar? Scar is actually fibrosis. Scarring is done by fibrosis. Yani fibrous tissue is formed. Or progression of the response to chronic inflammation, or this acute inflammation where you see a lot of neutrophils. This can change into chronic inflammation. And in chronic inflammation, you can see monocytes, macrophages, okay, lymphocytes. And then there is a progression and spread. Or this acute inflammation at one point can it can spread. It can spread. If you cannot take antibiotics or do not apply medicine, it will spread to other portions. Now, similarly, variables what can modify the basic process of inflammation? For example, the nature and intensity of injury, site and tissue affected, and responsiveness of the host. Yani what is the how much strong the host is. If he's healthy, it will not spread. It's like that. Then there is a complete resolution. It occurs after removal of the injurious stimuli and restoration to the normal architecture, which I explained you. When resolution is everything goes normal and everything is removed. The injurious stimulus, it is removed. When it is removed, this it becomes normal. Resolution is the usual outcome when the injury is limited or short-lived and there has been little tissue destruction. So he is saying that when there is little tissue destruction, there is no big problem, so resolution occurs. But if there is large defect, large ulcer or acute inflammation is too much and we don't give medicine or antibiotics, then the outcome will be different. So what will be outcome will be different. Now healing by connective tissue replacement or fibrosis. Connective tissue grows into the area of damage or exudate, converting into mass of fibrous tissue, or process called as organization. This is also one of the outcome of the acute inflammation, that is healing by fibrosis. In this, what happens? Scar formation takes place, and this undergoes organization and fibrosis. Fibrosis occurs when substantial tissue destruction. The involved tissue are incapable of regeneration. Abundant fibrin exudation in tissue and serous cavities. So, it occurs when there is zyada tissue destruction. Okay, when there is zyada, damage is more, fibrosis occurs at that time. Now, when it changes to the chronic, when acute inflammation changes to the chronic inflammation, it occurs when the acute inflammatory response cannot be resolved as a result of the persistence of injurious agent, e.g., tuberculosis, and interference with the normal process of healing. Now, acute inflammation, it changes to the chronic inflammation. When it changes to chronic inflammation, when this cannot be resolved, yani it is more dangerous, like infective organism is tuberculosis, it cannot be treated, it cannot be healed, it cannot be resolved. So that inflammation then becomes chronic. Yani zyada khatarnak, yani more dangerous, like dangerous organisms like tuberculosis or something else. In that case, acute inflammation changes to the chronic inflammation. Same thing happens in case of uh, tuberculosis. Because tuberculosis is not healed well, so it changes from acute to chronic. Now, this is the outcomes of acute inflammation. This is acute inflammation. Vascular changes, neutrophil recruitment, and this is also given in the Robbins. It can undergo resolution. Everything becomes okay, now normal. Or it can go to, there can be pus formation or abscess can become. Or it can go into fibrosis. This is fibrosis. Fibrosis means lot of collagen is formed. These spindle shaped, these are all collagen. And there can be loss of function. Or what else can be, if it can also, here it changes, acute inflammation can also change to chronic inflammation. And in this chronic inflammation, there is, when the inflammation becomes chronic means for a very long period of time. What happens? There is new vessel formation. We call that as angiogenesis. Or there can be mononuclear cell infiltrate. I told you in acute inflammation, neutrophils are present. In chronic inflammation, monocyte, macrophages are seen and lymphocytes are seen. Similarly, fibrosis can occur or scar formation. This can change into this. So remember this picture. Then there is the effect of acute inflammation. Local effect. Local effect is what can happen there only. For example, swelling can occur, okay, due to edema. Why will swelling occur? Due to edema. And if this swelling occurs in, for example, in bile duct, it can obstruct that bile duct and bile stasis. So it depends where the swelling is. Similarly, if there is, it can compression of exudate by cardiac. Similarly, if the inflammation is in bile duct, it can lead to stasis of bile. If it is in the pericardial cavity, it can cause a cardiac tamponade. Cardiac tamponade means pressure on the heart. Similarly, it can cause pain and loss of function. It can cause discomfort to the person and loss of function. For example, if ulcer in the mouth, the person cannot chew, he cannot eat anything. Similarly, systemic effects. Similarly, if there is diabetic ulcer, the person cannot walk. Now, systemic effects. Systemic effects means general effects in the body. General effects in the body. The systemic reaction of the inflammation are called acute phase response. The acute phase response are mediated by cytokines. Now, systemic effects of inflammation means why there is fever, why there is acute phase protein, all these changes that occur generally in the, if there is inflammation at that particular point, why is the effect overholds the body? For example, why is fever? The systemic reaction of inflammation are called acute phase response. Acute phase, we call these systemic effects as acute phase response. Acute phase response are mediated by cytokines. Now, these fever, etc., all the changes in the body in case of inflammation, they occur because of the acute phase. These are acute phase reactions, like they occur due to cytokines. Now, what are cytokines? These are chemical substances like interleukin 1, interleukin 6, tissue necrotic factor, and type 1 interferons. So, what happens is that clinical and pathological changes in acute phase response. So, what happens? These things, these cytokines, these are actually secreted by whenever there is acute inflammation, these are secreted by the neutrophils, they are secreted by the macrophages, okay, these inflammatory cells. And what they do, they go and they produce systemic effects, like they produce fever. So, due to these cytokines, there are clinical and pathological changes in acute phase response, such as fever, acute phase proteins, yani CRP concentration increases, leukocytosis, ESR becomes zyada. This is all due to cytokines. Now, this is fever. Why is there fever? Substances that induce fever are called as pyogens, characterized by an elevation of body temperature T1 to 4 degree, prominent in infection. Now, normally what happens? Normally what happens? This is the hypothalamus. Hypothalamus maintains this. Hypothalamus maintains this temperature set point. This hypothalamic cell. See, here it is written leukocytes secrete interleukin 1 and tissue necrotic factors. So I told you, whenever there leukocytes yani white blood cells, whenever there is inflammation, the white blood cells, they secrete zyada and zyada interleukin 1 tissue necrotic factor, and this tissue necrotic factor then causes changes the arachidonic acid to PGE2, this prostaglandin, zyada and zyada. And this prostaglandin, what it does, it raises the temperature set point, yani it causes fever. And if we take any drug such as aspirin, which decreases fever, what it does, it inhibits this enzyme, cyclooxygenases. It decreases which in turn decreases the amount of PGE2, and the temperature is not raised. Now, acute phase proteins are plasma proteins mostly synthesized. Acute phase proteins are those proteins that are secreted in this inflammation. They are mostly synthesized where? They are synthesized in the liver, whose plasma concentration increases several hundredfold as a part of inflammatory stimulus. Now, for example, acute phase proteins include proteins such as C-reactive protein, CRP. Its level is also high in case of acute inflammation, and it is secreted from where? It is secreted from the liver. Whenever there is inflammation, the liver, in any part of the body, liver secretes zyada amount of this C-reactive protein. Similarly, fibrinogen. Similarly, serum amyloidal protein. So these are used in also if we do a person who is infected with something or acute inflammation, or if we check his blood level of C-reactive protein, CRP, fibrinogen, serum amyloidal protein, the level will be higher. Now, what are its beneficial effects? Its beneficial effects is, for example, increased level of CRP has been proposed as a marker for increased risk of myocardial infarction. So their use is in case of laboratory test. Similarly, fibrinogen level causes, when there is zyada fibrinogen level, ESR level is high. So again, laboratory function. CRP and SAA, yani serum amyloidal, bind to microbial cell walls, and they may act as opsonins and fix complement. So they also are involved in opsonization and complement fixation. You will, inshallah, in future you will see what this complement system is and what is coagulation cascade. So you will understand them. And what are the harmful and what are the harmful effects of this is that amyloidosis, it's a problem. Amyloidosis is a problem. And hepcidin reduces the availability of iron and are responsible for anemia. Similarly, the person can become weak due to this, and it can cause anemia and secondary amyloidosis. Then there is leukocytosis. Leukocytosis is 15,000 or 20,000, but sometimes it can. Leukocytosis is when the concentration or when the number of these leukocytes increases in the white blood cells increase in the blood. Normally it is less than 10,000, but if it is 15,000 to 2,000, we call it as leukocytosis. But if it reaches 40,000 to 1 lakh per ml, there can be leukemia reactions such as blood cancers, etc. That so leukocytosis, it is also important whenever there is inflammation. WBC count increases. So this is the reference. And thank you very much, all of you. I will record your attendance. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.